Blackhawks getting their own Barkov by drafting you?
Yeah.
Anton Frondell is absolutely brimming with confidence, and if you take a quick look at his track record, you'll know exactly where that confidence is coming from. At just 16 years old, he cracked the Swedish professional ranks after excellent J20 production and simultaneously led Sweden's older age group in offensive output on the international stage. He even outshined then consensus top prospect James Higgins at the Five Nations tournament, scoring 6 goals and 7 points in just 4 games, including the dramatic tournament winner with only 1.5 seconds remaining. Despite injuries to start his draft year, he still finished with 25 points in league play, which is the second most ever by a U18 player in Hockey Allsvenskan history, behind only William Nylander and ahead of David Pastrnak. His 0.86 points per game rate is the best ever recorded by a U18 skater in league history, and he led the entire league in points per 60 minutes this season with an astonishing 4.24, despite not even playing top line minutes on his team. And yet, despite all of his early achievements and production, many experts question whether he deserved a top 3 selection, with elite prospects going as far as to rank him 13th in their final rankings. So were the Blackhawks justified in selecting Frondell as early as they did, and what type of player are they getting? To answer these questions, we'll dive into Frondell's identity as a player and the way his strengths will translate to the NHL. We'll discuss his weaknesses as a prospect and how they affect his floor and his ceiling as a player, and we'll project where he fits into the Blackhawks' plans both in the short and long terms. So without any further ado, let's dive straight into what makes Anton Frondell such an exciting player. If I was to describe Frondell's game in one word, the word I would choose is overpowering, and this is a theme that will recur throughout the video. Despite being 17 years old in his entire draft season, playing against grown men in Sweden's second-tier professional league, Frondell imposed his will on his opposition. He weighs 205 pounds at 6'1", and he's built like an absolute tank. His contact balance is top tier, and as a result, his ability to win board battles is incredible, and it shows up routinely in his forechecking and backchecking game. In this clip, Frondell lays a solid stick check on the defender to send the puck forcibly into the corner, and if I stop yapping for a second, you can actually hear the power that he generates into the stick check over the television broadcast. Take a listen. He then enters a board battle with 2 opponents draped all over him, but still manages to protect the puck enough to slip it to Eklund, who sends it back towards the point. A moment like this would be an impressive show of strength for most prospects, but Frondell made it absolutely routine. He won over 80% of all of his board battles throughout the season, which leads the entire 2025 NHL draft. And again, it's important to note that Frondell did this on a regular basis as a 17-year-old playing against grown men, while most other prospects played against their peers in their respective leagues. Sure enough, this physical domination was even more pronounced when he played for Team Sweden against his own age group at the international level. He absorbed hits as if they weren't even thrown at him, and he protected the puck along the boards as if opponents did not even exist. On this play, it's hilarious how much of an advantage his reach and size gives him, because the American player was not even close to winning the puck. It genuinely feels like Frondell could have kept the puck in this position all game, and there's nothing the USA could have done about it. Now, this is a good time to note that a lot is made of the fact that Frondell is very physically developed for his age, which raises red flags that his physicality may have already reached its ceiling. Now, I believe there is an element of truth to that, because he's probably not going to throw on that much extra weight in the NHL, but there are also 2 things to note. Firstly, his physicality is still a work in progress. He plays with a high center of gravity and is actually relatively conservative defensively, and I believe that more reps and better competition will unlock his power forward game more in the upcoming years. Secondly, although he is physically developed for his age, it's also important to note that that physicality is not his entire identity. Instead, he uses this natural contact balance and ability along the boards as a tool within a much more projectable identity as a north and south 200-foot player. He is extremely responsible defensively and uses his body to create mismatches for himself and his teammates in every situation. This clip comes from Game 1 of the Hockey Allsvenskan Finals, and Frondell's team was protecting a 1-goal lead at the very end of the game. He first begins by using his strength and his reach to poke the puck away on the initial breakout attempt. Now, if he had an extra gear to his acceleration, he probably would have been able to capitalize on the turnover a bit more. But considering that he was protecting a 1-goal lead in a playoff game, he made the safer play by retreating to maintain defensive structure instead of continuing to chase the puck. When the puck did eventually leak out to his area of the ice, he used that same reach to play the puck to himself, fended off the defenseman with his body positioning, and created space for himself to find a simple but effective pass to a teammate to relieve pressure. This is an aspect of his physicality that will translate much more directly to the NHL. Many other young players use physicality as a crutch by chasing hits out of structure like Brady Martin does, but Frondell is much more comfortable staying in the right positions and playing a projectable style while eliminating targets as they approach him. In fact, he even said, "I'm not a player who's searching for hits, searching to kill someone. That's not my style. But if I have to, and if I had a good chance and feel like it's the right thing to do, then I'm never afraid to do it, even against 40-year-old men." The last part of that quote is definitely true because Frondell absolutely has a mean streak that will show up in the NHL playoffs. This next play is one of my favorite moments of physicality from Frondell, even though it ultimately didn't amount to anything, because he perfectly integrates it as a tool into the rest of his identity. In this clip, the puck is loose in the corner of the defensive zone and Frondell approaches a routine board battle. He has a clear advantage in the race to the puck, so for most players, this is a very simple play. If they reach the puck first, they try to make a quick play along the boards, and if their opponent reached the puck first, they try to interfere by pinning them against the boards and tying up their stick. Frondell does none of these two options. He has a clear path to the puck, but instead of actually playing it, he throws an enormous reverse hit which catches his opponent completely off guard and buys him more space to make a play. Unfortunately, the play that he decides to make is the wrong one, and the puck is kept in the zone as a result. We'll get into those poor decisions later in the video, but for now, a play like this is a sign that his physicality will continue to evolve into a tool to be overpowering with. Now, of course, he wasn't drafted 3rd overall just because he absorbs contact and wins battles. He also has a diverse and interesting toolkit in the offensive zone, and the most elite of those traits by far is his shot. Frondell possesses an accurate, deceptive, heavy, and overpowering shot, and his shooting toolkit is endless. He has a thunderous one-timer that he doesn't need to load up for maximum power, and that allows him to find the score sheet even when he barely touches the puck. But he's equally effective with an accurate wrist shot that he uses from every area of the offensive zone. He has powerful stuff attempts when he forces his way to the blue paint with his physicality, and he's even capable of Crosby-esque one-handed backhanders. If there is a shot in hockey, Anton Frondell can execute it. I believe that his shot is immediately the second best in the Blackhawks system, behind only Connor Bedard and arguably even above Nick Lardis' shot as a pure tool. And that shot makes him an immediate threat to score on an NHL power play, because he can hammer home one-timers from the Leon Draisaitl position with extreme accuracy and power from day one. But interestingly, he didn't just hang out in the right circle waiting for passes on the power play. At the league level, he actually played the bumper position for a lot of the season. That is a scary thought, because even though he didn't play his ideal position on the power play, he still put up incredible production. And even though his effectiveness from the bumper position was not as good as it would have been from the right circle, he did show excellent positioning and movement off the puck, interesting physical potential, and a high shot volume from that area. But his offensive impact went well beyond the power play. Remember how we said that he led the entire Hockey Allsvenskan in points per 60? Well, he also led the entire Hockey Allsvenskan in 5v5 points per 60, as 56% of his points came at even strength. In this phase of the game, Frondell's superpower is purely away from the puck. He attacks dangerous areas of the ice, has great awareness of structure and positioning, and supports his teammates on the forecheck and on rotations. He has a sixth sense for finding open ice, and that pairs perfectly with his overpowering shot to make him an ideal third forward. He consistently goes from forechecking and winning board battles straight to positioning himself in prime scoring areas ready to hammer home goals. And while he defers to a shot as his primary tool from everywhere in the offensive zone, he also sprinkles in some flashes of more advanced shows of skill and some playmaking when he is able to read the play effectively. He is also a very comfortable defensive player as he has a good understanding of positioning in the defensive zone and never cheats for offense. And that means that even when his shot is not landing, he's still finding ways to stay effective, usually on the forecheck and the backcheck. So Anton Frondell has the toolkit, the physicality, the production, the size, the coachability, and the defensive responsibility that NHL teams cherish. But the reason that many experts question his ceiling is that the tactical side of his game still needs development. He has all the tools to be much more than he currently is, but needs to learn how to use them. He's not the type of player who creates lanes through manipulation. He's simply clean with executing passes when he does spot an open lane. His playmaking stems more from defenders overplaying his tremendous shot, and he also consistently misses passing lanes to shoot instead and makes plenty of mistakes on the puck. In general, many of his deficiencies as a prospect stem from two broader issues. First of all, Frondell has a very poor understanding of space and how to utilize it. He consistently panics and makes hurried decisions when he has more time to operate. Even when he has room to enter the zone or to involve his teammates, he is very early to revert to the dump and chase or to retreat into defensive structure in the neutral zone. On this play, Frondell is in possession of the puck in the neutral zone with a lot of space to work with and with a teammate darting to his right. Instead of utilizing the space with the skill that he does possess, he opts to instead simply dump the puck in and chase it. And this is a very important habit to note because the worst dump and chase player on the entire Chicago Blackhawks is Connor Bedard. And that's interesting because it's clear that Anton Frondell wants to play with Bedard. In fact, when he was asked what position he'd play in the NHL, he just said that he'd play whatever position Bedard was not playing. But I believe that their playing styles will significantly clash in the NHL, and playing together would not result in the benefit of either player. Bedard strives to control the game almost to a fault. Even his deficiencies are trying to hold onto the puck too long to find the perfect play or to give his teammates time to enter the right structure. Anton Frondell is the exact opposite, and not really in a way that would support Bedard. Not only is he at his best away from the puck, but he's at his best when he's getting rid of the puck quickly instead of holding onto it and trying to find more advanced plays. This means that Bedard's style of entries and creation fundamentally clash with Frondell's, because when Frondell is on the puck in the neutral zone, the puck is going in deep. And when Bedard is on the puck in the neutral zone, he's holding onto the puck hoping that his line mates can support him in transition, which is not one of Frondell's strengths either. In addition, Frondell is at his best near the boards, and many of his best plays are occupying multiple people down low to release the puck to supporting teammates along the boards. Bedard is not a strong forechecker, and that style of creating in the offensive zone does not suit him. Their ideas and the patterns of play that they thrive in are fundamentally different. Unless Frondell turns into a pure defensive poaching third forward alongside Bedard and another winger that better complements Bedard, I don't think they'd work very well together. But again, that style of defensive player is usually not the type of prospect that goes third overall in a draft. In his draft year, it's not a secret that Frondell benefited a lot from having a player like Victor Eklund alongside him to support him along the boards as another relentless forechecker, to cover for his deficiencies in transition, and to be the play driver that feeds him the puck and allows him to play the role that he's most comfortable with. As unbelievable as Bedard is, he is no Victor Eklund in those areas. Luckily, the Blackhawks have a similar, if not better profile as Eklund already on the team, and that is Frank Nazar. Nazar is an unbridled beast on the forecheck. He's one of the highest IQ players on the entire team. He's more of a playmaker than he is a sniper. He plays a strong transition and defensive game. He has excellent contact balance. He is very middle driven, which would create space on the right flank for Frondell to find open ice to score goals. And he is a reliable presence that would provide close support to Frondell regardless of where he is on the ice. In other words, he can provide everything that Eklund did and more. And I believe that if Frondell plays with Nazar long term, his ceiling will immediately go up as a result. But even then, he needs to work extremely hard to improve in transition, because this next clip is the type of play that shows up far too often on Frondell's tape. On this power play entry, he gathers the puck before quickly turning back and throwing a very weak weak blind backhand pass to nobody, and then he immediately realizes that the pass has nowhere near enough power, so he tries to win the puck back at the same time as Eklund did, almost disrupting his teammate's puck recovery because of his own mistake. Now, this specific play didn't ultimately cause any issues, but it reminds me a lot of the struggles that Artem Levshinov had on zone entries with the Blackhawks last season, which resulted in him being taken off the first power play unit in favor of Sam Rinzel at the end of the year. In general, I believe that one of the main causes of Frondell's struggles in transition is that he is a poor scanner away from the puck, and that affects his game in every situation. In the offensive zone, there are several instances where he received the puck but didn't know what to do next. In those situations, he frequently forced shots through defenders even when lanes were not open, resulting in a high number of blocked shots. He also attempted to move the puck as quickly as possible to cover up that issue, sometimes too quickly like he did in the previous clip, and he tended to fall back on his strengths by playing off the puck rather than working to manage it more effectively. When he does have the puck, his tunnel vision becomes very obvious. On this play in the U18s, Frondell effectively wins the puck on the forecheck, but he tries to force a pass to East Wozniak that was easily intercepted by a basically stationary defenseman. If Frondell scanned more effectively before winning the battle, he'd be able to see that his teammate was entering a lane that was already closed off. Now, to his credit, he then recovered and back-checked all the way behind his own net to recover the puck. But this issue with awareness materialized even more in the neutral zone. He got lucky with risky passes a lot in Hockey Allsvenskan, and given that the NHL is a very different league, these types of plays in transition would be going straight for breakaways the other way. And that brings me to a really crucial point. Anton Frondell's weaknesses make his development path extremely important, because even though his floor as an NHL player is extremely high, his ceiling will depend on carefully improving in areas that are inherently very difficult for young players to improve on. It's usually much easier to improve tools and habits in a player with high IQ than it is to improve awareness and on-puck creativity in a player who already has a developed toolkit. And based on Frondell's early statements, the first step of his development will either happen in the SHL or the NHL. So which of these two options is more ideal? For me, it comes down to two factors: the differences in leagues and the Jeff Blashill factor. Let's break both down, starting from the differences between the two leagues. The NHL is just a very hard league for a young player to transition to. The game moves at a faster rate, the patterns of play are entirely different, the opponents are faster and stronger and better, the expectations are higher, and player weaknesses are magnified and exploited more than they are in any other league. There is nowhere to hide in the NHL, and Frondell is already a player who sometimes hides in the background at his current league level. It's also interesting to note that there is a history of physically mature prospects entering the NHL too early and never reaching their full potential, and one recent notable example is Kaapo Kakko. Kakko is currently a very good third liner for Seattle, and my concern for Frondell is I have no doubt that he could show up to Chicago on day one and be that exact type of player. He could score a few power play goals and play defense and forecheck, but again, that's not why you drafted him third overall. And going straight to the most unforgiving league in the world with the flawed profile that he currently has is a near guarantee that he would just lean on his strengths as a crutch instead of working systematically to improve his weaknesses. And the cherry on top is that the SHL, like Hockey Allsvenskan, is played on bigger ice, and a lot of Frondell's weaknesses are more easily fixed with more ice to work with. Firstly, as we mentioned previously, one of Frondell's biggest issues is not having a great feel for space and how he can attack it. The best situation to work on that issue is a league that has more space, not a league that's played on smaller ice with tougher competition. The same holds for his issues with scanning and processing, because he'll be able to work on that much better when he has more time to scan and process, whereas in the NHL, the margins of error are almost non-existent. But the other consideration about his development path is the Jeff Blashill factor. A lot of Frondell's weaknesses are things that Blashill's coaching excels in. Frondell is currently a liability in transition, but Blashill takes pride in making breakouts simple and instinctual, so he'd work to coach out the mistakes that we pointed out earlier. In addition, Frondell struggles with processing and scanning, and Blashill uniquely believes in coaching hockey IQ through practice reps, learning how to scan, and playing within a set structure. Blashill runs a relatively rigid offensive zone system with plenty of rotations and set plays. Now, in general, I don't usually love that style of coaching because I prefer creative young players to have the license to show off their creativity with no structural limitations. But for a player like Frondell, his superpower is not creativity, it's the fact that his toolkit serves as a multiplier regardless of what position he plays. Players like Frondell will thrive in a rigid structures-based system like Blashill usually runs. It's also a little added bonus that Blashill won't take away his ice time like Djurgården did in the playoffs, but Frondell still needs to improve in things that the SHL will allow him to improve in much more than the NHL will. In addition, although Djurgården is going up in league difficulty, they're still a more known quantity than the Blackhawks will be, and will provide a more stable environment. A lot of the team's most important players, including Frondell's best friend and partner in crime Victor Eklund, will be returning to the team next season. If I could choose his destination, it would be a full preseason and season in the SHL so he can have the right environment to really work on those issues. Ultimately, I understand why many Blackhawks fans disagree with the draft pick. Despite his raw upside and his effectiveness in his role, he's currently more of a support third forward than he is a superstar play driver, and that profile is not one that you commonly see taken third overall. It's no secret that he wasn't my choice at third overall either, but there are a few things about Frondell that aren't currently being discussed enough, and the first is that he has unbelievable intangibles, and that's something that most fans will never fully grasp until he reaches the NHL. Firstly, his leadership is well known to everybody who knows him. The fact that he waited after being drafted to personally greet all the other Blackhawks draft picks on day one perfectly demonstrates that leadership, and I expect Frondell to be wearing a letter when the Blackhawks are contending again. Secondly, his work ethic is spectacular. He has an unrelenting desire to be better. Now, some people are annoyed that he compares himself to Aleksander Barkov, a player whose foundation of hockey IQ is very different than Frondell's, but I see that as a sign that he wants to work to round out his game. If you're frustrated that Bedard was sometimes the only Blackhawk on the ice hours after practice is concluded, I am very confident that Frondell will join him because that's exactly what he does already. The Blackhawks may need to double the Zamboni driver's salary to get those two youngsters off the ice after practices. And this work ethic isn't just theoretical either, he clearly improved throughout the span of the season. He finished the regular season with a near 2-point per game pace in his final 9 games, his shot got even better, and his skating, which is still a bit of a weakness, became several orders of magnitude better than it was at the beginning of the season. Even his utilization of space in transition started to show some flashes of improvement towards the end of the season. This next clip is one of very few tantalizing shows of incredible skill through the neutral zone, and it's a sign that Frondell can bring this part to his game if he continues to work on consistency and awareness. He begins this clip essentially as a defenseman, but once his teammate begins a breakout, he explodes to become a part of the play in support. Unfortunately, a back checker makes a good play and AIK recovers the puck, but Frondell takes the puck right back with a tremendous and heavy stick check, and then he shows off incredible skill as well as a good understanding of space to play the puck into the open area between the 3 defenders, and then to weave through all 3 into the offensive zone before holding a play to let his teammates join in the play. He then dominates along the boards like he always does and sends the puck in deep to an open teammate. This is a spectacular shift by Frondell and demonstrates improvements in skating and in understanding utilization of space and transition, which are 2 of his biggest weaknesses. But before you get too excited, the very next shift showed that these flashes are still, to be generous, a work in progress. Here, Frondell tries to flip the puck over the defender's stick into space, but it's completely the wrong decision to make, especially on a power play breakout. Although Djurgården got the puck back momentarily, this awful pass ultimately led to a shorthanded chance against. And although he has some very obvious glaring issues that he's working hard to improve on, the next thing to note is that in a draft full of boomer bust players, Frondell is still a near guarantee. He will be an identity piece on the future team. He will be effective on the power play if he's not responsible for zone entries. He will be a nightmare to play against. He will be able to win board battles consistently. He will be able to play in all situations. None of that is in question. The only question is just how much he can elevate his game beyond that. And even if it's theoretically very difficult to transition from being an elite passenger to an elite play driver, Frondell has a production of a superstar and the work work ethic of a superstar. He doesn't quite play the style of a projectable NHL superstar yet, but rule him out at your own peril. So what are your thoughts on Anton Frondell as a prospect, and where do you see him fitting into the future team? Let me know what you think, and I'll see you down in the comment section and in the next video. Until next time.